All right, Krystal, what's on your radar?
Well, impeachment might be over, but the political fallout from the January 6th insurrection is just beginning. Here's the latest. Nancy Pelosi has announced plans to create a 9/11-style commission to look into those riots. Here's the Washington Post. House Speaker Pelosi said Monday that the House would move to establish an independent commission to investigate what led to a mob storming the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, one similar to the body that studied the 9/11 attacks for 15 months before issuing a sweeping 585-page report. Y'all ready for 15 months of rehashing January 6th? Now, this idea is backed by politicians from both parties, something which should immediately make you nervous. So what is this thing really all about? Now, I actually do think it's really important to uncover the root of the security failures which allowed the breach of the Capitol in the first place. The potential threat was widely known by anyone who was paying attention, let alone those with access to relevant intelligence and tracking online chatter. How were they so ill-prepared that a relatively small number of protesters easily breached the building, causing mayhem and death? But multiple congressional committees are already conducting investigations into those security failures with plans to question agency heads about what exactly went wrong. But that's not to say the commission is not without utility to all of those who are pushing it. Here's what everybody involved gets out of the deal. So for Republicans like Lindsey Graham, who said he's in support, they get to pretend to be serious and courageous and have some sort of morality by backing the creation of commission when they did nothing but aid and abet the madness after the November election. Some said nothing, some actively went along with the Stop the Steal delusion, and some went so far as to contest the election results. Backing a meaningless commission is exactly the Washington move to let people signal virtue without actually having any of said virtue. For establishment Democrats, people like Pelosi, keeping Trump in the spotlight lets them off the hook from doing anything or standing for anything. Let's be clear. Biden and the establishment Dems are still in power because of Donald Trump. They were able to successfully convince a majority of Democratic primary voters that, one, Trump is so bad we have to do anything to beat him, and two, you may not love him, but Joe Biden is the only guy who can beat Trump, so even though you prefer Bernie on the issues, suck it up and vote Joe. With Trump out there being manifestly awful each and every day, Democrats really didn't have to do much to inspire their base or to win over enough suburban moderates to win the House, the Senate, and ultimately the presidency, while simultaneously crushing their left flank insurgency. Trump has been great for all the grifters in the Dem establishment consultant industrial complex and has allowed them to avoid scrutiny for being so embarrassingly weak that they could lose to someone as pathetic as Donald Trump. A lengthy 9/11-style commission allows them to continue using Trump as a crutch. For the media, Trump, of course, great for business, and the ratings for their coverage of the Capitol riots was sky high. Since they have no desire to apply a critical lens to the Biden presidency and don't care about policy at all, cable news execs have got to be panicked over what to do during the next 4 years. We've covered the way that their ratings crashed right before impeachment started. Curious how they're going to fare this week now that impeachment has ended. Some new data from Axios also lays out the challenges that they face. Over the first 2 weeks of February, Biden was mentioned in 13.8 million social media posts. By comparison, in the first 2 weeks of January, Trump was mentioned in 104 million social media posts. So Biden is garnering 1/5 of the social media traffic that Trump was. Now, if you've built a business model around the Trump outrage of the day and partisan cheerleading, the Biden era is going to be unkind to your bottom line. Already, we've seen the embarrassing lengths that they're going to try to meet their content demands. Here, for example, is some important reporting from a CNN White House reporter on Joe Biden's bedtime. Can't make it up. A new 9/11-style report keeps the media Trump party going. They can analyze the commission. They can make bad predictions about it. They can get fake leaks out of it. Jonathan Chait can write a piece called "What If Trump Has Been a Proud Boy Since 1987?" Gonna be great, guys. But above all else, the national security state blob, which of course is in bed with Republicans, Democrats, and the media, they're going to get new excuses to spy on, harass, and imprison more American citizens. Immediately after the riots, Adam Schiff and other establishment Democrats, along with a bunch of former spooks and security state ghouls, they started beating the drums for new domestic terror laws if they don't already have enough tools, laws, or resources. A 9/11-style commission would put an official imprimatur on their constant expansionary desires and power grabs. What does that end up looking like? Well, if you think it's just right-wing white supremacists who are going to be targeted, you're a fool. Look at this. Just consider this case. a leftist named Daniel Baker, who opposes both Trump and Biden, was arrested in Tallahassee because of social media posts that FBI agents claimed showed he was, quote, on a path to radicalization. Had he actually committed any violent acts? No. He'd posted things like, willing to do anything to anyone so I don't end up homeless and hungry again. And, quote, Trump still plans on a violent militant coup. If you don't have guns, you won't survive. Now, the Washington Post describes Baker as an advocate for the homeless and a socialist idealist who traveled to Syria to fight against ISIS and also traveled to Seattle to take part in the autonomous zone. And after violently delusional right-wingers stormed the Capitol, that is who the authorities decided to arrest. Now, the response to 9/11 has been an abject disaster for our country and for the world, but a bonanza for the military-industrial complex. The fact that both parties are looking to replicate it tells you everything you need to know. And look, Sagar, as with all of these things, there's a grain of a justification. We do need to know what the hell happened in terms of the security. But guess what? We've already got congressional committees investigating that. And you know this is just an excuse for Republicans to pretend like they're doing something good, for Democrats to pretend like they're doing something good, for the media to have something to cover and fill their hours that's focused on Trump because he's the ratings-generating machine. And most importantly, for the national security state industrial complex to be able to justify even more power, even more laws, even more resources.
Of course. And this is the same. If you want to know the 9/11 Commission, it was actually a total disaster. And it led to the embrace of all of these new laws, which were absolutely unnecessary. If you go and you actually read what went wrong in 9/11, a single bureaucratic fix, one, could have prevented the entire thing. One thing in terms of information sharing between the FBI and the CIA. Did that mean we need hundreds of billions of dollars more spent on this? Absolutely not. It was insane. Same thing when it comes to here. 100 more cops, whole situation looks different. Right? 100 more. Instead, I'm driving past all these National Guards guys who are staying in 5-star hotels downtown. Still, it's from February 17th. Nobody knows why. There's no explanation. Already's cost $500 million in terms of the deployment. Probably another 100 million, maybe even 200 million when all things are said and done. Not a peep, no question from anybody whenever it comes to this. And then you go and you take a look at what a 9/11 commission or whatever would keep. In a way, politically, they're not wrong. This is the greatest bludgeon that they'll ever have against Trump. So they need it to live for years and years and years and years and years in order to keep using it against the Republicans. So, I get that. But in terms of what is actually good for the country, no, there's nothing good that would probably come from this outside of what a standard report that could be issued by whoever, the Capitol Police, an outside investigation. It could take you 3 months. That's all it really would need. Interview the people involved, but they need to blow it up into some big thing. And the policy consequences of that are immense. And I think that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we already know the contours of what went wrong. They just didn't take it seriously.
Yes.
They didn't take it seriously. They didn't have enough personnel on the ground to be able to push back and secure the Capitol against the protesters. The question that needs to be discovered is why? What were the roots of that failure? Ken Klippenstein, when we had him on, suggested it was sort of an ideological blind spot. What do you do about that? That's an important question to explore. You don't need 15 months in the 9/11 style commission to ultimately do that. So look, you're right in one sense. This is the most sort of potent bludgeon that they have against Donald Trump. But you know what would be an even more potent bludgeon against the Republican Party? Actually doing a good job of governance.
Oh, well, of course.
Nothing would be more powerful than the argument they made in Georgia. Hey, vote for us and you're going to get checks in your bank account. They could always do that. But that's the problem with having Donald Trump out there, is it allows all of these parties to be at their absolute worst. All Democrats have to say all the time is well, you can't criticize us and you got to accept whatever scraps we decide to throw at you because Trump is so awful and he's out there and he's going to be the 2024 nominee and we've got fascism coming to the country. I mean, that's what they use to get away with doing the absolute bare minimum. And so this type of report, while yes, there are certain answers that we need to obtain, is going to be used to put an official imprimatur on distraction from the core issues and expansionary national security state powers.
100% right.
Coming up, All-Star panelists Michael Starr Hopkins and Marshall Kosloff are Team Rising. That's next.